So this is chapter 1 again. Eric Fauner is the author, and Eric Fauner, I guess, to give you a little bit of his background so you can understand where he's coming from as you read the textbook. It's going to be the main thing you're going to read throughout the whole semester here. He's from Columbia University. He's pretty progressive, right? So you would need to categorize him between left or right in the political spectrum. He's definitely on the left side, right? He might not say it up front, but you could tell right away in his writings and between the lines his bias. And that's really what I want to get at is before I go actually to the actual content, facts, and evidence, is that this is what history is about. Right? History is not just about memorizing a whole bunch of dates, locations, and names, etc. I mean, it is that. There's part of that, right? That's like half the job, like 30%, 35% of the job is having your facts right. Like the other 60%, right, the other 45%, whatever I just said, is interpretation. But how you're going to interpret, how you're going to use these facts, and thus you turn them into evidence. Right? So a pretty good distinction here to find out here to know. It will help you out through the rest of the mini semester, especially for your discussion boards, and perhaps even your final exam. Is the distinction between facts on the one hand and evidence on the other hand here. So the distinction is pretty clear. Facts is just facts, it's just numbers. Right? The Constitution was signed on 1774 or 77. 1777. You know this, I'm a history professor. 1777 is when the Constitution was signed. Right? It is a fact that Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, the river Rubicon, and thus conquered Rome. That's a fact, right? But then what you do with them, right? So now your interpretation, was that a good thing or a bad thing? What was the significance of these facts? That's when you turn those facts into evidence. That's when you add your own interpretation, your own thinking, your own voice to these facts. Okay, well, I know for a fact that the Constitution was written in 1777. So what does that mean? Right? That's when you add your own analysis. So when I give you your comments, excuse me, when I give you back your comments or any feedback, and I say, oh, well, you need more analysis, you need more evidence, this is what I'm aiming at. Right? Yes, give me some facts, but also give me your own take on this. And to be honest, there's no really true or wrong answer when you do this. As long as you have your right facts and that your interpretation or evidence is based on these facts, you can say, like, yeah, the signing of the Constitution was terrible. Right? It institutionalized slavery. And thus, that's why we have the Civil War. Right? That would be one argument you can make. Right? But that's an interpretation. Another interpretation would be like, no, the Constitution was the greatest thing ever. Because of that, we have rights and stuff like that. Right? So there's different ways of seeing one event. That's history. Right? And this is what I really want to kind of like teach you. Right? I just don't want to teach you just facts and events and what happened. Like I said, that's part of the story. That's part of history. But the other more important and cooler stuff is the interpretation. Right? How are you going to interpret that stuff? Those facts. Right? So just keep in mind, right? The distinction, basically, long story short here, distinction between facts and evidence. Right? There's analysis. There's evidence, right? It's analysis. And that's what we're looking for, right? Evidence. And not just facts. Facts are useless on their own. Right? So, all right. So chapter 1. So chapter 1 begins pretty much in the beginning of this continent, so North America. Right? So I'll be right back. I should have brought this really quick. I have a globe here somewhere. There you go. Really cool to get one of these. I always had one of these when I was a kid, and I was just been fascinated by these. So make sure I get this. So I don't know if you can see this here. So this is our side of the world, right? This is South America, and then Mexico, U.S., Canada, Art. Right, so we start off. The chapter starts off with like. Wait for me here. Between Russia and Alaska, basically. This little strip right here, called the Bering Sea. So about 14,000 years ago or so, maybe like 26,000 years ago, between 14,000 years ago, there was like a mini ice age happening. Covered this area in ice over here, and there was a bridge here. This was connected. Right? So basically, if you don't know your like anthropology or archaeology, human beings started off in this big old continent here. Make sure you call it a continent and not a country, right? It's Africa. A whole bunch of countries inside Africa, right? The humans started off in the savannas, Africa, migrated all over the place, right? All over Eurasia, Europe, Asia. About what's the date here? By 40,000 years ago, we reached Australia. Human beings as a whole, Homo sapiens. And that means that we were spreading beyond the Eurasian landmass, right, which is like Europe and Asia, right? All that landmass right there. Right, so we started off in Africa, went all across landmass, going, I guess, be east, crossed into Australia. About between 25,000 years and 11,000 years. That's more specific. I know that Fonder gives you, what does he give you? He gives you like a whole big old range of years. That's useless. It says that between 15,000 and 60,000 years ago. No, it's more like 14,000 years ago, and what did I say? 25,000 years ago. Between that time period, 25,000 years ago and 14,000 years ago, that's when people started crossing that Bering Strait that I just showed you. And there is a couple of the Bering Land Bridge. That's what scientific name, the Bering Land Bridge. And there was basically like 3 great migrations that happened subsequently. There's a big debate still. How exactly did North America or did the American continent, basically, not just North America, but also South and Central America, how did it get populated? Right, so there's 2 main routes, basically. You either walk your ass, right, all across. Here's on page 7. You're back then, and you're one of those old school dudes back then, right? These are the routes that we have here. You either walk your ass across from the Bering Strait down, your tribe or your little clan, your family, or you take a sea route, or you take a canoe, go all the way down and shit to the fucking west coast. So those are 2 main routes, right? But there's 3 great waves of migrations, right? I'm not really going to get into the details of each wave. Just keep in mind there's like main waves, right? Migrations. Not everybody came at once. Right? It was like waves. People that came across. By 14,000 though years ago, the Earth got warmer. That land bridge was made out of like ice. Basically, it dissolved, right? Went back to the sea. And now there's a sea separating Russia from Alaska. So those people are called Paleo-Indians. It's a pretty important word to know. So these are the people that are the earliest inhabitants, human inhabitants of America, North America. Right? Here, where we're at now. So Paleo-Indians. So about 15,000 years ago, right, that's when we separated, basically. What would be called the New World, the name of the title of the chapter, and the Old World, right, Europe, Eurasia, it became separated then. It would take not until Columbus, right, to reconnect those 2 continents together again, right? That's pretty important here, right? Pretty shocking stuff here. I find this fascinating, obviously, right? So anyways, right? So 2 main ways, right? You either walk your ass off, or you're going to fucking oh, right on, right? Obviously, the ones going on the canoe are going to get further down south much faster than walking, right? So there was a big debate on when was like the Southern America inhabited. Right? In North America, we have a really good archaeological evidence. Right? Where archaeology is, it's still debated, right? So in North America, we have the Clovis, what's it called? We have the Folsom first, and then the Clovis that we found. We're excavating right here in New Mexico, really close by, up north here. And so some archaeologists were digging up, and they find some bones of some kind of bison, and they have an arrowhead. I'll show you later. I have some arrowheads here, and an arrowhead, right? And it was stuck to a bone of this bison, and they consider scientific magic, whatever. I'm not a scientist at all. Go to the lab. Long story short, they carbon dated. They found out how old it is, and this Folsom point, that's what they call them, the Folsom point, about at least 10,000 years. Right? We know this because we know that bison, that Folsom was stuck on the bone, went extinct 10,000 years ago. So we know now that people were hunting around this area in Mexico, right, at least 10,000 years. So that was the first discovery of how old it was. And then we pushed further back. And also in New Mexico, some archaeologists found the Clovis points. This is just because there's a town named Clovis down there. We just named it the Clovis point, the Clovis people, Folsom people. And that was dated to about 13,900 years ago. That means, and this was on a mammoth, the tooth of a mammoth, actually. We hit a mammoth in the fucking mouth, right? And that thing got stuck between some tooth. And that's what we found, right? A point. It's made out of rock and stuff. It's pretty amazing how they make those things with flakes and everything. Flint making, right? That's what it's called. Anyways, so now we find out that people have been here at least 14,000 years, right? Hunting, right? And with tools and stuff. That's pretty advanced stuff, right? This is technologically advanced. We have tools to know how to throw shit, hunt. All right, so 14,000 years ago. So okay, for sure, North America, 14,000 years ago. So it makes sense, right? That people are coming from the Bering Strait. It's going to take longer to populate South America. So the theory was that South America was at least, 1,000 years ago, right? It couldn't be older than 14,000 years ago. And recently, a couple of years ago, I think in 2017, 2018, some people, I think it's in Chile, Colombia, one of those Central Americans, South American countries, almost positive it's in Chile. And there's some caves out there, pretty up there, isolated away from like the main urban areas. Some archaeologists there found some paintings and like the actual tools of the fucking artists, right? Like preserved because people don't go there, right? It's really out there in the boondocks in the middle of nowhere, like deep, like in the Amazon area and stuff. So they dated these things, all these artifacts, right? Debitage, your archaeologists, and they dated this debitage, and they came out to be about 16,000 years old. A bit older than the fucking, Folsom. Like, what the fuck? Like, that doesn't make sense. That's how we know for sure that people use, right, canoes or some kind of a seafaring way down the coast to get down here, right? That soon. It was not just through foot, right? People had the technology already to know how to sail, basically. So that's the story of like the origins of the Paleo Indians. Right? Here, right? Think about like the Cruise. I've never seen that movie, The Cruise, by Disney or Pixar. I forget which one. And that's what's going on here, right? This is where we're the Cruise at this moment in time. That's what we got here. All right. So we're still hunter-gatherers. Right? We're still, crude people, to say the least. We have really no control over our surroundings. Basically, we're hunter-gatherers. We depend on the game, bison, mammoth, whatever is available. There's no agricultural settlements yet. Until the rise of what we call in history and archaeology, anthropology, whatever, we call it the rise of Mace Mace Culture. So might want to ask yourself, like, white people have different, like, you go to different areas, white people have their different phenotypes. Right? People are closer to the equator have darker skin. Right? Upper, they have lighter skin. Right? And different, cultures all around. Right? Why is the case? Well, it begins here in this time period. Right? There's people that back in the old world, in Eurasia, there was good plant, you could agriculture. Agriculture began. First of all, if you guys don't know, the three cradles of agriculture here, and the rivers between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, that area, the Fertile Crescent, which is pretty much like modern day Iraq, Iran, that area right there, Middle East, we call the Middle East. So that's the first cradle of civilization. So we first started settling because we were able to control agriculture. We know how to grow crops. Back then, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's barley and wheat over there. So these things, right, give proteins, nutrients that you need. And then the surrounding little game, they have big mammals up there, right? They have huge mammals. They had horses out there. They had camels. They had other stuff out there. We in the north didn't have much of. The mammals over here in the New World, I mean, we didn't have as plentiful as enormous, besides just the mammoth. So these people over here, basically what I'm trying to say, that agriculture, right, is tied directly to civilizations. So as soon as you find out how to domesticate a crop, right, whether it's barley or wheat, right, and thus just specialize on that, on farming, and then you have, feed. Not dependent on nature no more. You're bending nature to your own will. This is what we do now to survive. Right? We bend nature to fit our own needs. And this began here, in the first cradle of civilization, in the Fertile Crescent. The second cradle of civilization is in China, right? Between the Yellow River and the Yangtze River. I'm not really a historian of China history or Middle Eastern history, obviously, so I can't give you much information about them. Generally speaking, right, in these valleys, right. And then another third cradle of civilization in Eurasia was the Indus River Valley, India, in northern India. And that was like the main thing that made them become civilizations: agriculture. The culture of being, of plants, being able to domesticate your own plants. Right, like this fella back here. She's doing good. She was doing on me earlier this year. Anyways, right, so we're domesticating plants, and now we don't have to spend all this time chasing fucking food. We grow food, right, where you sit at. Right? So now we have time to think about writing. People that are warriors become more, upper. We have social stratification now, basically. A specialization of people doing certain jobs. Right? These people become the makers of clothing, right? Because they don't have to worry about anything else. Because there's settlement. Not everybody's not doing the same thing. Or cooperating to hunt down a freaking bison or something. Now we have a farmer, and he sells us his fucking food. And now I have time to pursue whatever the fuck I want to pursue. So we have, right, social stratification, the specialization of jobs, by civilization. And this happens universally, basically. And this is what's happening here in Mesoamerica. Give or take about 5,000, 10,000 years difference between, let's say, the Indus River Valley and what's happening in Mesoamerica. And you might be saying, what the fuck is Mesoamerica? Came out of nowhere. So Mesoamerica, Meso just means middle. The America continent. So the middle of America, namely Mexico, right? So we have Mexico that pops up here because they're one of the first ones. Right? We have the Olmecs, the Toltecs civilization, and experimented with corn, right? Maíz, So it's called Mace Culture. And that became a really crucial ingredient in creating what will soon become these very complex civilizations that was spreading out throughout not just in Mesoamerica, pretty much. There's a saying in the history here. This is in discipline. Follow the corn. Right? You want to follow how civilization uh, and this part of the world, the Americas, follow the corn. Right from Mesoamerica, and then it just spread north, south. So follow corn. Right? Corn is so essential, right? Children of the corn. Right now that we're here, we're in October right now. Right? This is the children of the OG children of the corn, right? These are the Mesoamericans, Olmecas, Aztecas. So we're experimenting with domesticating that one seed, corn. Right? It took hundreds of years, thousands of years to finally get it right. And have and then we also had squash and beans. This trifecta of corn, beans, and squash. Shit, we don't need to fucking hunt for no more animals. We're good. We have all the fucking nutrients that the body needs. Thus, the same thing. Concentrate. We settle. Right? We spend more time. We have more free time for people to pursue different things. And other people get socially stratified, where the priests become the head of the fucking state society. Then you have the warriors. You have the farmers that sustain everybody else, and then you have the laborers, and then you have slaves. So this is the way society begins. Both worlds. So the Cradle The Americas, right? When did this begin? About, let me see, 2000 BCE. So 2000 BCE means before the Conqueror. If you're more religiously, religiously inclined, you might call it 2000 BC, before Christ. Right? But as an academic, right, we try to get away from the taint stuff. Anyways, we call it BCE, before the Common Era. After the year 0, it's called the Common Era, CE, not AD. So about 2000 BCE, that's when we begin to see this burgeoning of civilizations in Mesoamerica. So, like I said, yeah, the Mayas were one of the big ones. To the Olmecs, the Toltecs, to give you some examples. And we see the rise of Teotihuacan, which some of the ruins still stand today. Still amazing that's still around. What is it, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago? The ruins still there. Strikingly beautiful. Huge. Then we have like this big rise fall, right? This big civilization. Use that term. Rising with the Mayan civilization when it's fucking pop, and then it ends right. The denouement of this Mace culture ends with the Aztecs and the conquest of the Aztec Empire. Cortes. Talk about right now, shortly. And all these people they were complex societies. In beginning with Toltecs and the Olmecas and the Mayans, even before we get to the Aztecs, right? These people were pretty damn complex, right? They had, I mean, basically what you expect any civilization to have. They had it. And I mean, should I go into? Give me some examples. Guess I better should. So yeah, talk about Olmecs. So they build large burial mounds, pyramids. The jaguar was their the revere. That was the main demigod, I guess, like their main god. That's bien. They had a calendar, very complex calendar as well. They had this really cool game of half soccer, half basketball. This rubber ball, so the rubber plants were natural for the New World. So they were making into a little ball. You have to hit it with your hip. There was like a little ring on the side. It was like the field was like straight, rectangular, and it had like the walls would go up. It had like little rings on the side here. That's like the whole thing is to make it into the ring. without using your hands, just like your and your knees. It was pretty intense game. They had sunflowers, right? Squash, beans, manioc, something that I ate there, and corn, right? Obviously, really, Olmec were like one of the first really truly complex civilizations to arise, with corn being the core, the basis, the foundation of that civilization that will literally just sprout out everywhere. Olmec traders all go all the way up to what we call poverty point up here in North America. I think it's by Georgia, present day Georgia. It was a complex already trading system, right? It was globalization happening. We're not isolated, these people. It was a complex trading system going up and down. Right. Right. So it's about 4,200 to 2,700 years ago. We know that Louisiana, that's where it's at, that there's evidence of trading between the Olmecs and people in poverty point. So complex, man. To have trading, to have all these, to have religion, to have entertainment, that a game. Right? That's complex. To have a calendar, to have pictoglyphs, right? They didn't have a writing system, right? Alphabet, anything. But they have pictoglyphs, right? Pictures, kind of like hieroglyphs, basically. Right. So yeah. Then down south we have the Incas in the Peruvian Andes, and they had a freaking complex network of roads, very steep freaking mountains, tremendous architecture. I noticed that a lot of y'all in this course, particularly in this mini master, are architecture majors. We go to the Machu Picchu, right? That's like the epitome, right? Architecture, construction. All right, so we'll go down with other more. I guess I just want to name these cultures here, because after a while they get erased from history, right? That's really sad. We had the Mayan culture that flourishes between 300 and 900. Now we're going to the CE, the Common Era. Closer and closer to the contact point Columbus gets here. So the Mayans, man, it's a flourishing culture. It was huge, huge. Still, people are have direct descendancy from Mayan culture, and it stretched all the way. They controlled basically from the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico all the way down to El Salvador. Right, so let me bust out with the globe here. Up close here. Let's see. So that's the Yucatan Peninsula. Pops out here. And all from there, this area here, all the way down to like El Salvador. All here. That's what they controlled, and they were influential. That was their main like core of the empire, and then their influence was just it was influx, right? People were influencing each other, right? These are the main ones, right? The main empires. There's hundreds and hundreds of more other nations and tribes and stuff. Teotihuacan was our main metropolis. I mentioned Teotihuacan earlier. You can still go there. The Pyramid of the Sun, just one of the most famous, tourist attractions in Mexico. If you go to Mexico City, I strongly suggest you to go there. It's fucking mind blowing. It really is. And then the decline, a mixture of warfare and climate change, droughts, crazy floods and stuff like that, right? So that declined the Mayan culture. And then it took a while, and then the Aztec flourished afterwards. Or the Mexica. So the Mexica also in the central valley of Mexico, right? Present day Mexico City. Their main metropolis was Tenochtitlan. There's a pretty cool picture here in the textbook. Tenochtitlan, right on top of a fucking lake. Again, a testament to how complex of a civilization these people were prior to European contact. People. So why would a whole civilization build their main metropolis on top of a lake, Lake Texcoco? So it's because of their religion, right? These people have like their origin stories, right? So I give you the whole spiel of how people came to the Americas, right? Walking their asses down or through boat. But these people had their own views and their own cosmology, how they came across, right? Most people in North America areas, right, had this idea that they came from the Earth, bottom of the Earth. They spread out just like plants do. This is the Mother Earth, right? And there's variations, but that's like the main motifs. And these Aztecs had they come from there, right? These Aztec people come from what we hear from like the southwest area, and because of droughts, climate change, and warfare, they started migrating. Part of their origin stories was that this was gonna happen. They knew this was gonna happen, right? So they had to move. And their second place they're gonna found at, so second like settlement, was gonna be where they find the god Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl means is translated as the serpent, the feathered serpent. So a serpent, right, like a snake, but feathers. Motherfuckers were smoking some good ass peyote back then, right? So the serpent feather, the feathered serpent. Dyslexia here sitting. The feathered Quetzalcoatl. So right, they're going down south, right? They're migrating. They're trying to find some place. So you can imagine, right? They're going down from over here, pretty much, right, from like El Paso, right, Tucson, that southwest area, down to Mexico, right? It's desert down here. It's terrible. And then it gets pretty green, right? And then you get to this valley of Mexico, Teotihuacan, and the Mayans were at, and they're like, holy shit. And they knew about this stuff, right? They were not dumb, right? They were like, fuck it, let's go down there. There's some like civilizations down there. They bring pretty cool stuff. They bring jade. They bring these crazy feathers, right? Maybe that's where God is. Right? Makes sense, right? Because we found in Chaco Canyon and in these areas over here in the west where the Anasazis were at, and the Hohokams and the Mogollons, feathers, parrots. And parrots are not natural, but inherent to this area over here in the southwest, especially in the desert. They come from the south or Mesoamerica. Right? So the people knew there was like, wow, there's some pretty cool shit going down there. So let's move down there. But they had this mythology, right? They had this religion. Quetzalcoatl. So whenever you see Quetzalcoatl, you're gonna stop, and that's where that's gonna be your settlement place. That's where you're gonna settle again. And lo and fucking behold, walking down in Mexico, and there's a bunch of lakes. And have you ever been to Mexico City? You know, like Texcoco, Xochimilco, there's all these other lakes, right? And in the middle of a lake, there's like an outcrop, right? Some tree, I guess. I don't know, some kind of plant, some tree, some branches. And there's a fucking eagle fighting, trying to eat, basically, a serpent. And the serpent is trying to fight back and trying to get away, basically. And these people, right, these will become the Aztecs, the Mexicas, are like, holy fucking shit. Here it is. The feathered serpent, right? A serpent with feathers. It's Quetzalcoatl. It's our fucking god. So they're like, holy shit, that's our mandate is to create our civilizations wherever we see our god. So they take it upon themselves to build a whole fucking city on top of a fucking lake. Impressive. I mean, yeah, it was based upon like this, mythology, but every founding of every civilization is based on some kind of mythos, right? We have our own mythos, right? We will get to in the midterm, right? The founding of America, right? The founding fathers, right? We have a mythology, right? Same here, right? You can't take away from their technological progress, right? To build a whole city, right? with pyramids, pyramid complexes, right? Not just one, with huge fucking pyramids and other ones and temples and offices for fucking officials and priests and warriors, marketplace, bigger than any other city in Europe at the time. That is fucking awesome, right? So yeah, so how do they do it, right? It's chinampas, right? Have you ever been to the taco chinampas? They're awesome. Um, that's what it is. It's just artificial islands. Right? They created artificial islands. So if you're an architecture major or construction major, you know that takes a lot of fucking work, technology, to make artificial islands. We're talking about what? This is around 1200, 1300, all the way to 1500, common era. What, it's tremendous technology here. Right? Awesome shit here going on. So that's the Tenochtitlan. That's the Aztec. Now I will talk about the demise toward the end of the lecture here. So grab some popcorn. This is going to last a while. It's long ass chapters. So, all right. So now let's move. Okay, so that's the Aztec Empire. They're right now fucking at the great of their glory. Let's move to another northern area closer to home here. So I already talked about Chaco Canyon is up there in New Mexico. I think the closest town is Farmington, New Mexico. Also another place to strongly recommend to go before it gets destroyed, basically, by fracking. I know fracking is good money, but what's more worth? Cultural heritage or paycheck, right? Depends. But go there as soon as you can. Chaco Canyon National Park. And fucking impressive too. Fucking 2-3 story fucking buildings. I mean, no, yeah, buildings, like big ass buildings. Right? These people. Chaco Canyon, about 850s CEs is when they were in their primes. That was also a major hub of trading hub. Where different people would come together and not just trade for goods and commodities, and these feathers that were coming from South America, Central, but praying too. It became a really big religious center. Many different nations and peoples. So Chaco Canyon, New Mexico, freaking amazing. Right? Um, but also because of climate change, droughts, stuff, decline. People moved out from there. It's about 1130, 1200. Another remarkable place nearby Chaco Canyon that also speaks to the great technological progress. If you haven't caught on, this is like the theme of this year. I'm trying to emphasize how advanced these people were. There's a Cliff Palace at Mesa Verde in Arizona. Also another place you got to go and check it out. And you'll feel like you stand there below, they're freaking. This is like some cities built on a cliff. And they excavated, they chipped their way out and made rooms and buildings inside fucking the mountain. Amazing shit. Right? So go check these places out. Really, really life changing. All right, so this was Mesa Verde. These are about the four corner areas. So you have like Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Mexico. All that area is just rich for archaeological evidence and exploration. Strongly recommend to go out there. Just camp out there, man. Hike. Fucking cool. These people were about their demise. They ended about in 1300 CE. This Mesa Verde. Again, droughts, the main explanatory, climate change. That's the southwest. Let's go towards the Mississippi Valley, so the Mississippi River. We're talking about Louisiana, going up towards that area, Georgia. So the Mississippians, basically, that's what we call them. Pretty easy to remember that. They develop gradually also as well, like after 500 Common Era. One of the most important, their largest complex civilization is Cahokia, Cahokia. Cahokia. This is the Illinois River. This is a confluence point with the Illinois River and what is it called, the St. Louis River, meet into the Mississippi River. And it's just they have what they call the earth mounds. big, tremendous, just mounds, artificial earth mounds that they constructed for burial purposes and just for religious purposes. Again, right? You need a lot of technology and calculus, right, and all these other like crazy stuff, right, formulas to build such complex societies like this. What is it? Tuscaloosa, Alabama. There's Mountainville. Right? Self-explanatory. A whole bunch of little mountains everywhere, right? So again, right, pretty complex societies, and they were all trading with each other. Right? Let's keep this in mind. Right? There was overlapping here, trade. Right? There's a trade networks happening here. So that's like the landscape of America, and I guess the American continent before I guess any other kind of contact, right? So I gave you how we became separated and how we developed. And then what's next is pretty much contact with the Europeans. And I guess I'll take a little break here, and I'll come back for part 2 for this. So pretty much when Columbus and stuff, maybe a little bit before Columbus, and then on to the rise of, I guess, what we know as New England, New Spain, New France, and the Netherlands. So we'll take a little break, and I'll come back for part 2.